But here's the government's version of events. O.J. Simpson by himself, by extraordinary luck, in this tiny window of time frame he has available, goes over to his ex's house where, extraordinarily, she walks out of the house. No reason to believe she's there. No reason to believe she'll walk out of the house. When her lover, Ron Goldman, shows up at the same time. No reason to believe he would be there. No reason for him to know that at all. Again, during this tiny little window of time frame. Okay. Then he manages to kill her, apparently from behind, in such a bloody way with a Colombian necktie that there's blood everywhere, but not very much of it gets on him. Just little tiny sprinkles. Then he manages to, hop over all of that and get to Goldman before Goldman can get away, gets into an extended fight with him, which somehow only cuts his knuckle, causes no bruises anywhere on his body, no other cuts anywhere on his body, just his knuckle. Quite impressive. But the evidence from Goldman is he got into a physical fight that did severe damage to the other person. Kills Goldman there. Again, that was blood everywhere. He then somehow takes one of his gloves and just pulls it off or drops it. I guess he decides to be Michael Jackson suddenly. Then magically kind of hops over all the blood. Just gets tiny amounts of blood on the bottom of his shoes. And as he's walking back to his Bronco, he stops every 3 steps, because that's a logical thing to do, and wait for his knuckle to drop the blood. Wait, okay, stop. All right, then walk 2 more steps. Okay, hold on a second. Come on, knuckle. Drop a piece of my blood here. 2 more steps. Okay, yep, there you go. Drop a couple of them more there. Then he gets in the Bronco. Now, logically, there should be blood all over him, but there's almost no blood in the Bronco. No. Instead, he takes the one glove hand he has and says, I know what I'll do. This little bit of blood that somehow is all I have on me, I'm just going to swipe it right here on the dashboard, because that's a natural thing to do, right? Get no blood on the seats, no blood anywhere else, just a little tiny drop somehow that I'll take my hand and magically drop the blood on the bottom of the Bronco and a little bit of blood of Nicole in the Bronco. Drive back. Nobody sees me, of course, drive there or drive back. And then I'm going to stop behind the guest house where I know somebody is staying, because that's, of course, what you would do, right, if you committed a double murder. Then he hops the wall and bangs into the back of the house where he knows somebody is standing. And this is where, miraculously, the other glove just falls right off. Then he hops back over the wall, drives the Bronco down a little bit further so that he can walk up to the house where the limo driver can see him. And once again, stops every couple of feet to make sure that knuckle blood drops. Wait, stop. Wait, stop. Wait, stop. And the only blood anywhere on anything he has otherwise is on a sock that he just sticks in the washer dryer and never washes. That at the time of the scene, they found no such blood. So if you believe OJ did it, that's the story the government sold. Does that sound like it has one iota of credibility to it? That's why he's not guilty. OJ should have been covered in blood, exactly. Everything about that murder scene says they were following Goldman, number one, and number two, that there were 2 killers. That would explain why there's so little blood leaving that scene. And the nature of the execution would suggest a drug tie, because that was a Colombian necktie they gave her. The glove does not fit. You must have quit. Oh, Johnny was skilled. I got great respect for Johnny. Could OJ be tangentially involved? I don't think he was ever involved. I mean, here's what happened. The only reason why OJ is ever tied into this is because the cop at the scene thought he could make a hero. Here's what obviously happened, okay? The cop, Mark Furman, knew there was a prior dispute between OJ and her, knew of the prior relationship, and so he dropped the glove. He took out 2 gloves from his own possession, dropped one of them at the scene, took one and got a little bit of blood on it, went over to the other scene. When he talked to the guest house guy who said he heard a noise out back, decided that's where he would drop the second glove. But before he dropped that second glove, he smeared some on the inside of the dashboard. Then his buddy cop, who took OJ's blood and just got a delay, a weird delay between when he got OJ's blood and when he made it down to the crime lab. And by the way, part of OJ's blood was missing when he got down to the crime lab. Went to both scenes, and because he's a lazy, corrupt cop, dropped the blood. You want to know how I know that the government story means OJ had to keep stopping along the way? It's because these idiots, they didn't want to use too much blood, but they didn't. The leading pro-government blood expert in the country testified for OJ. Why? One of the only criminal defense cases he's ever testified in. Why? Because the blood was only consistent with someone standing still. See, that's what happens when you're trying to frame somebody, right? You're not thinking, okay, I need this to look like I'm walking. Because you only have a little bit of blood you're willing to steal, right? You're probably able to steal. You can't steal it all. So what do? Stop. A little bit. Stop. Because he's a dumb cop. Corrupt cop. These guys have been famously corrupt forever. Remember, Mark Furman sued the police department saying he was such an incorrigible racist that he was mentally disabled from his racism. Oh, come on. I mean, that case screamed fake case, fraudulent evidence, forged evidence. Then you also realize, by the way, that it is very rare for people to just suddenly commit brutal double murders. The other problem that never made any sense to me, I was like, how did he just accidentally show up there? Right? I was like, how does he know? Like, there's no reason to believe she's going to come out of the apartment. There's no reason to believe that the other guy's going to show up. There's no reason for OJ to know that. Whoever was there wasn't just, like, their thought was he was just sitting there. He could have been sitting there for an hour and would have go home. Nobody would have walked out. So that version of events never made sense. What made a lot more sense is somebody followed Goldman to that scene. And my guess is the two of them had screwed somebody over on a drug deal or something like it, that they pissed the wrong people off. That's my hunch. So OJ was innocent. Period. Not guilty verdict was the only sensible verdict. By the way, at the time of the verdict, half of white America agreed. 2/3 of working class white America agreed. A year later, that had flipped. Why? Because the media had convinced them of a different story. Most of the people that believe OJ is guilty never watched the trial, never even watched closing arguments. And yet they're certain OJ is guilty. But they don't get fooled by media propaganda. Yes, they do. No better sign of it than thinking OJ is guilty. Ask yourself, how do you know OJ is guilty? Where did you come to that conclusion from? Was it the same media you know not to trust?